Good evening. Time is 7 o'clock on Tuesday, December 5th, 2017. I'd like to call tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting to order. If you could, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next up is public forum, limited to 5 minutes per topic. Discussion or comments about town employees or agency members shall be avoided so as not to violate individuals' rights. Is there anyone here this evening for public forum? All right, seeing none. Next up, we have the minutes from the November 2017 Selectmen's meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the November 21st, 2017 Board of Selectmen's minutes as presented.
Second.
Hearing a motion and second, is there any further comments or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0 with one abstention. Do you want to write that down? All right, next up, first up on tonight's agenda items, we have a public hearing for 169 and 187 8 Lots Road involving a 61A removal. Jim?
We have to
Do you
open
want
the
to
public
clear
hearing.
the public hearing open?
Yeah, I apologize.
No.
I'd like to first declare a public meeting open. So I suppose then we would turn it over to the clerk for,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as advertised in the November 9th, 2017 Millbury Sutton Chronicle, Town of Sutton notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing to discuss the town's option under Mass General Law, Chapter 61A, Section 14, Tuesday, December 5th, 2017 at 7 o'clock p.m. The meeting will be held in the Sutton Town Hall regarding Chapter 61A property, which is located at 169 and 187 8 Lots Road, Assessor's Map 28, Parcel 3. This lot will have 7.20 plus or minus acres removed from Chapter 61A and sold. This meeting will be held on the third floor of the Sutton Municipal Center, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. 01590. The public is invited to attend this public hearing.
thank you, Dave. All right, is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak to this agenda item? If you wouldn't mind, just reintroduce yourself to the community.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Mel Chatrone. I represent the owner, Mr. William Cronin.
All right, would you mind refreshing our memory as
so
to?
Mr. Cronin is the owner of 5 lots over on 169 and 187 8 Lots Road. He has subdivided those 2 parcels into 5 buildable lots. I was here a couple weeks ago asking that one of those lots be released. I'm here asking that a second lot, Lot 1, which is part of the 11.91 acres at 187 8 Lots Road, be released as well. We submitted a purchase and sale agreement, which he has for the parcel. It contains about 7.20 acres, and it is a buildable lot, and the buyer intends to build a home on that lot.
Okay, very good. I suppose we'll open up for conversation from the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the committees and department heads don't have any issue with removing it from 61A, just
Okay.
for your information.
Thanks, Jim. John?
No, I have no comment other than I think it's a good place to have buildable lots.
Thank you. Dave?
Agreed, no comments.
No comments. And I have no comments as well. If there's no interest on the town to act on this, there's no need, then ultimately it's at the decision of the property owner. And I wish him luck in developing this parcel because, as my colleague John said, having a nice home down in that neck of the woods is definitely a positive for the town. All right, I would like to close the public hearing.
Do we have to vote for that?
So I think we have to vote for that, correct? Yep. Roll call vote or just general vote?
Vote.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes 4-0. All right, now I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, motion to not exercise the town's option under MGL Chapter 61A for property located at 169 and 187 8 Lots Road, map number 28, parcel 3, for 7.20 acres.
Second?
Hearing a motion and second. Any further comments? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. All right, next up, I'd like to declare a public hearing open pertaining to a 2.1 acre lot at 169 Eight Lots Road. Dave?
All right, at the risk of repeating myself, as advertised in the November 16th, 2017 Millbury Sutton Chronicle, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Sutton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing to discuss the town's option under Mass General Law, Chapter 61A, Section 14, Tuesday, December 5th, 2017, at 7 o'clock p.m. The meeting will be held in the Sutton Town Hall regarding Chapter 61A property, which is located at 169 Eight Lots Road, Assessors Map 28, Parcel 3. This lot, further identified as Lot 3, will have 2.81 plus or minus acres removed from Chapter 61A and sold. This meeting will be held on the third floor of the Sutton Municipal Center, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. 01590. The public is invited to attend this public hearing.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. Jim?
Again, Mr. Chairman, the departments and commissions had no issue with removing it from 61A.
Thank you. Comments? I'm assuming they're the same, John? Dave?
Agreed.
Ray? My comments are the same, so I would, I suppose we should vote to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. And now I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, motion to not exercise the town's option under MGL Chapter 61A for property located at 169 Eight Lots Road, map number 28, parcel 3, lot 3, 2.1 acres.
Second.
Hearing a motion and second. Any further comments or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up on the agenda are the 2018 license renewals. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a number of licenses for the board's consideration tonight. All licenses are up to date on taxes. John Kuchar and Matt Belcito have conducted their annual inspections for all alcohol restaurants. There are 4 of them in town. All 4 have passed the inspections, so it's pretty much a clean slate this year. And it's typical that the clerk reads the license recipient.
Alrighty.
Sorry, Dave.
No, it's okay. Class 2 licenses, Beck's, Brian's Auto Service, Brown Automotive, Frank's Auto Sales, Hampton Motor Sales, J.D. Byrider, Lappin's Auto, P.T. Watts, Inc., Progressive Auto, Vinnie's Automotive, Sutton Auto, LLC, 122 Worcester Providence Turnpike, LLC, a.k.a. John's Automotive. Class 2 and 3, Myers Trust. Class 3, Scott Cars Auto Shack. Catering license, 3D's Catering. Lodging House, Putnam Hill Bed and Breakfast. Innkeeper's license, Econo Lodge. Common Vittler. Essex Golf Group, DBA Blackstone National Golf Club. Crossroads Variety. Dudley Gendron American Legion Post number 414. Dunkin' Donuts. Eaton Farms. Five Guys Hamburgers. Jim's Pizza. King's Campground Country Store. KP's Breakfast and Lunch. Market 32. Nick's Country Market. Old Holbrook Place. Peking Garden. PV Food and Beverage. Schultz's Place. Starbucks Corporation. Sutton Center Country Store. Sutton Falls Camping Area. Sutton Extra Mart locations number 27 and 157 Worcester Providence Turnpike. Tony's Sutton Pizza. Amusement Devices. Sutton Falls Campground. All alcohol liquor license restaurants. Dudley Gendron American Legion Post number 414. Essex Golf Group's DBA Blackstone National Golf Club. PV Food and Beverage. Tony Sutton Pizza. All alcohol liquor license package stores. Crossroads Variety and Market 32. Wine and malt beverage liquor licenses retail. King's Campground, Nick's Country Market, Sutton Center Country Store, and Extra Mart, number 27, Worcester Province Turnpike. Music and Dance, Dudley Gendron, American Legion Post number 414, PV Food and Beverage. Entertainment by DJ Seasonal, Essex Golf Group, DBA Blackstone National Golf Club, and King's Campground.
Nicely done. Thank you, Dave. The magic chair tonight. Does anyone have any comments on these wonderful establishments that we have in our town?
As long as they're all up to date with everything, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Would you like to add any more?
Only what John said. We sometimes have issues getting everybody sort of in and getting their paperwork up to date. Haven't heard any of that this time, which is a good thing if that's the case, and we appreciate that. But other than that, no, sounds good.
Excellent, thank you. Ray?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, as am I. Again, it's nice to see that this list is always growing, and we have some new businesses in town, and it's always exciting, at least from my perspective. Every single year you look for new names to be on this list, so hopefully we'll see a couple new ones next year.
May I just say, too, I think it's important that the board pretty much set the tone for licenses. We've had a couple of years where it was a little tricky, and some licenses came in late. But I think the message has gone out to get your paperwork in on time, and we had a perfect record this year, so thank you to the board.
And of course, I'd like to extend thanks to Debbie, because I know she does a lot of work that's involved in this, so thank you, Debbie. All right, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve as read the 2018 license renewals in the town of Sutton.
Second.
Hearing a motion and second. Any further comments, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. All right, next up on the agenda is Town Administrator's Update. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few updates for the board. The FY19 budget process is underway. It's been going on for the past couple months. The school department's actively working on their budget. A lot of this is a repeat, but I just want to keep this in front of you to let you know of any changes. I mentioned last meeting we have 12 additional students attending Blackstone Vocational School. That's probably about a $150,000 increase. The other typical large unanticipated expense is healthcare. Blackstone National is one, and healthcare is another. Our belief, Tim Harrison and myself, believe that we will have a small surplus in this account. Part of it's because of the conservative budget we made in FY18. Not sure how many people are going to opt out, and what the effect would be ultimately. So right now we're anticipating a little over $100,000 surplus in this account. Now that could change over the next 6 months, and we'll have to watch it carefully. If that surplus remains, we would like to look at a healthcare stabilization / reserve fund that we could create that would essentially smooth out any spikes in healthcare. So if we got 7-8% increase this year, the following year it's 13%. This healthcare stabilization fund would smooth that out, and we'd keep it at 8%, but then the reserve fund would come down. So we are considering this as an option. We could potentially create it at May town meeting or even fall town meeting, but we're trying to deal with healthcare proactively, and while we have potentially a surplus this year, we don't want to lose that to free cash at the end of the year. We'd like to use that, retain that for healthcare in particular. So we'll talk more about that at another time, but that's just to let the board know what we're thinking. The consensus estimate is due tomorrow from the state, and the budgets, the capital plan is due next week, and the instructions to the department heads go out Thursday regarding the budget. Job title change for the energy manager. Doreen DeFazio, as this board knows, does a lot more than just the energy manager role. She does so many different things for the town. I would like to change her title to Director of Sustainability / Special Projects, and potentially increase her hours depending upon the special projects that are assigned to her. Right now, she works 9.5 hours a week. We funded her at $15,000, which is essentially 11.5 hours a week. She doesn't use those 11.5 hours right now, but I would, as we head into the spring, we've got a couple special projects that she's starting to work on, particularly the gravel pit material that we're trying to sell at Maytown meeting. That's a hope, but we are working towards that goal. Most energy managers in this region have a 20-hour-a-week position. Doreen is 9.5. Now, the history is we used to share the energy manager's role with the town of Millbury. And they had 9.5, we had 9.5, so the position was roughly 19 hours a week. But beyond green communities, which Doreen does a terrific job, she applies for the grant in March, is awarded in typically June at some point, and then over the next 4 or 5 months works aggressively to get all those projects completed with all the department heads involved and so forth. She's kind of the coordinator of these green community projects. Make sure that projects are all done by December. And then we're then eligible with a final grant submission to the state to apply again the following March. A lot of communities take a year off in between grant rounds. So they will work throughout the year to complete the grant projects, where we complete them in the first 6 months and then apply next March. So it's a constant effort. And now to date we've received over $640,000 in green communities grants to the town of Sutton. So that's a great win, and should more than justify the increased hours if we get to that point. But she does so much more than energy management. She's working on the aggregation program, which has nothing to do with the energy manager role, has nothing to do with green communities, but she's taken on that role, and she's been the liaison between Peregrine, our supplier, and all the residents and the seniors in this town. So I could go on. She's working on a climate change resiliency project with Lee Dillard Adams, a former employee of DEP. She's just a great resource. It's a great person to have in my office. Ultimately, I am looking to change the supervision from Jen Hager, who typically oversaw the green communities effort, to my office as all the special projects, everything else, and aggregation and LED streetlights, which she ran, come out of the town administrator's office. So that's something that'll change with the fiscal 19 budget, but I want to get the board's update on this and hopefully agreement in this change in title. Veterans Memorial Garden at the Senior Center, Mr. Ronald Benoit graciously volunteered his services to help the Senior Center redo the Veterans Memorial Garden. Mr. Benoit took a stone, ironically, from the old stone school down at the transfer station. Dave Arsenault was very helpful to him, picking out the stone. He brought it over to Whitensville Monument, had it engraved, beautiful engravement if you have a chance to get down there. The Highway Department did a terrific job helping them out. Lyman, Rose Brooks, and the rest of the staff, Matt Stencil, and a number of the highway employees helped them set the foundation and able to complete that project. So we did receive a letter of thanks, and I want to thank the town employees that helped with this project. Refunding savings. I just wanted to clarify this. There has been some talk that the town is going to receive a $2 million check for the refunding savings, and that's not the case. It's essentially going to lower the debt service over the next 13, 14 years. That's all it is, which is going to mean that the residents are going to pay less in debt service over those 14 years. So I go into a little bit of an explanation. The police station debt in FY19 is $741,000. With the savings from the refunding, the net increase is only $600,000. So that's $140,000 savings. Again, in 2020, the police station debt goes down to 720 from 740. We save 192,000 on the refunding for a net of 527,000. So essentially what happens is we peak in 19, in 20, the next year, it starts to roll off. And so instead of a peak of 3.8 million in debt service, it's going to go to 3.6 and then quickly roll off. So it's good news for the town, and obviously it's a significant savings, but it was a little mixed up on how that was all explained, and I just wanted to get that word out there. In addition to that savings, which is good news, is on the police station borrowing, we received a premium when we borrowed for that police station. We had a competitive process. I think we had 10 bidders submit bids on those notes. We selected the lowest bidder, which is a very solid firm. I think it was Citi that purchased those bonds. And with that purchase, we received a premium with those bonds that worth approximately $368,000. Now, we're still trying to figure out how we can use that premium, or whether it needs to go back on the DE1 or the recap form and go back to the residents. Obviously, we've had some issues with the financing for the police station. We had to cut all the ad alternates and so forth. So if that money is available for the police station, the residents approved an $8.7 million facility, this would be using the entire 8.7, and 368,000 would be part of that project. But there is some question as to the ability to use that. The Municipal Modernization Act has some language in it that kind of makes you feel that it needs to go back to the residents through the DE1 form. Yet bond counsel and our financial advisors said that you can use it on the project. So we're a little bit of inconsistency, and we haven't gotten in touch with town council and so forth. So we've got to clear up the missing links, but it is good news. We received the premium. The worst case, not the worst case, but if, at least for the police station, it goes back to the residents. So it's not a bad situation either way. It either goes towards the project or it ends up going back to the residents as essentially a rebate, which further lowers their tax impact. So, Waters Farm Luncheon will be held next Wednesday, December 13th, from 11:45 to 1:30. This is an annual event held up at Darling Barn. The Board of Selectmen have been invited to attend that. Town Hall Christmas Party will be held December 19th. That's 2 Tuesdays from today at 12 noon. I'd like to close Town Hall from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. To enjoy the event. The Board of Selectmen is welcome to attend. I hope you can make it. And again, the girls' varsity soccer team won the Division III state championship. We've invited them to attend a Board of Selectmen's meeting on December 19th. Is that date still? So on December 19th, they've been invited to attend, and I think they'll be here. There are a number of events going on that night, band concerts and so forth, so we'll at least get some representation from the girls' soccer team. And that's it. The jingle jaunt is just a reminder, and that's all I have for updates.
Excellent. Thank you for a full update tonight.
Yes.
John, do you have any comments for Jim?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mr. Smith. In regards to your updates on changing the title to Doreen, you know, this board has watched her grow over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And I think she's really gained a lot with her experience on how to do certain things. And I look up to her as another John Kuchar.
Mm.
She's that type of a person that just digs her heels in, doesn't stop, and does it for the best interest of this town, the town of Sutton. But I would also like to say, and I think all my colleagues would agree with this, we're not taking anything away from all the efforts and all the things that Jen Hager did for us through your office with this job title, because Jen is one of those people that we need in this town.
No question.
And she does one heck of a job also. And it's just not to lighten her load, but to have Jen stay here for, my opinion,
Yeah.
is for many more years, like a lot of our valued employees.
I agree.
So I just wanted to kind of get that out a little bit. And the other thing that I found when I was a chairman a couple years ago was setting the electric rate. Doreen was very persistent. Jim, as you can recall, we did a lot of conference calling and locking in a date, and we locked in that first rate. It was a big experience for this town, but we locked in a rate of 8.4, and now it's gone up a little bit more, but we've also extended the period from 1 year to 3 years.
Right.
And Doreen, it's just the way she does things, the way she comes across on the phone, and not only that, it's the way that people look up to her.
Yeah.
So I think this title change is fine with me. I support it entirely.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On your budget process update, just a quick thing. I assume it's too early in the process to have any idea what next year looks like for health insurance at this point.
It is, however, not that we haven't already forecasted and anticipated that, so we have done a budget gap. We are anticipating an increase in healthcare. I believe we budgeted 8% in our budget gap analysis, which right now is looking fairly positive. But we won't know. We do have an IAC meeting scheduled for later this month, and hopefully we'll hear from Fallon, and they'll give a preliminary idea of what they anticipate. We probably won't know that number until late February, early March.
If I could, I'd like to also spend a couple of minutes talking about Doreen. Our chairman is fond of saying when she shows up that there must be good news. Actually, I think that's a serious comment. As John pointed out, we've watched Doreen work for a number of years now, and she always works in a very professional manner, no matter what task is in front of her. And I think she has had, really a broad spectrum of things that we've asked her to do, and just always performs well with the things that we've given her. So, John mentioned John Kuchar and Jen Hager in the same breath as Doreen, which is very high praise. And I think it was listening to him and thinking, she really does fit well with the caliber of people that we have around here. She has really performed at that level. And so I agree. I think if there's an opportunity to ask her to do more, that we would benefit from that. Certainly the number that we have budgeted is well earned and is repaid, time and again with the money that she brings into town through grants and other things. So that is that's money well spent, I think. So I would completely support that. I also wanted to mention the Memorial Garden. I did have a couple of chances, it turns out, to be up at the Senior Center and see that Memorial Garden, and it really came out nice. It looks beautiful. So I also wanted to mention the letter that Mr. Benoit took the time to write. Very nice letter praising the folks from the Highway Department that helped him with that work. So I want to appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask a little bit more about the refunding, because, my thinking was, can we try to put it in layman's terms a little bit? So I guess what I'm saying is refunding, we basically refinance some old notes that were out there, so some.
Yeah, the 2007 borrowing is cleaner because it was essentially a callable bond after 10 years.
Yep.
So that one is fairly clear, is that what we did is essentially refinance that bond at a low interest rate. The term is still the same.
Okay.
We pay off that bond in 2027. No change in the term, but we did garner a lower interest rate on that, and that's part of the refunding. The 2011 bond is part callable, part advance refunding. So that's where it gets a little complicated. The advance refunding, those funds have to go into an escrow account and paid out at the same interest rate as they were in 2011 throughout 2021. So that's a 10-year callable. The next 3 years are existing interest rate, and all those funds are put into an escrow account. After the 10-year, it's callable, and that's where the actual refunding took place. So the savings you find in those refunding of those two notes really go out for the next 13 years or so until 2031, which is the 2011 bond paid off in 2031. So there's a natural callable part. The 2007 bond was callable. The 2011 bond, we did an advance refunding, put those funds in escrow, and those funds are paying out the same interest rate as they were in 2011. After 2021, it's callable note, and we reduce the interest rate, and that's where we get additional savings on. So I don't know whether that simplified it or confused it more.
But to be clear, right, we have to repay all the principal no matter what we do.
Yes.
So $2.3 million is interest savings, essentially?
Yes.
So I just want to make that part clear, that through some genius of financial wizardry, we just saved the town over $2.3 million of interest over a number of years. And, you know, that,
Yeah, and
pretty good.
I really deserve very little credit on it. I listened to Tim Harrison
Well, I was
and,
looking at Tim when I
and
said it,
Clark
so.
Rowell. They are the kind of brains behind the organization. As Tim mentioned, I'm just smart enough to listen to them every once in a while. So yeah, I agree.
so, you know, and to reiterate what you already said, this is not, you know, this is not like budget savings that come back to us.
That's right.
The way this works, because it's a debt exclusion, we had to raise taxes to pay for the debt. So we lower taxes as the amount of debt service becomes lower.
Exactly.
But, you know, again, that's real savings in the pocket of the taxpayer, so that's a good thing.
Right.
And on the same, I guess the same discussion topic, I think I asked you the other day, do we know really what caused the bond issuance premium to occur? Was that a lower interest rate than we anticipated, or was that a market issue with the people that were bidding on the bonds? Do we?
You know, can I defer that one, Tim? That's a tricky one. Very good question, though.
And I'm just going to read. I'm going to read the definition of what a bond premium is. So a bond that is trading above its par value in the secondary market is a premium bond. A bond will trade at premium when it offers a coupon or interest rate that is higher than the current prevailing interest rates being offered for new bonds. So
Can I simplify it?
we have a strong rating for our bonds. So there was lots of interest to
Attractive.
try to buy them. We had 8 or 10 bidders. Normally, we usually see 3. And the current market conditions made it favorable for someone to pay extra for it now for that higher premium later on, I guess.
Okay,
And, yeah, it's substantial.
that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, what Jim, I don't want to confuse things more than they already are. That 368,000 was just that was a net amount that we end up getting. There's so many moving pieces. The gross amount of the premium was $1.9 million,
Wow.
but most of it went into the escrow to pay for interest and things that have to grow. So money gets put into escrow that's being held over the non-callable period. There's an assumption that money's gonna be invested, it's gonna make so much in interest earnings that's gonna help pay for the interest, the fixed interest on those non-callable bonds. So we had to put in roughly 1.5 million of the 1.9 into the escrow.
Yeah.
and that's gonna grow, we still we just make the principal payments on the remaining years of the non-callable, but the interest is gonna be covered through the escrow account, and most of it's being covered by the premium.
Wow.
So that's a lot of where the savings are.
Well, I guess regardless, it's a good number. That's a nice return to the town, so.
It's a great number.
It's good news.
I just wanted to highlight those two things. That's a lot of money that's coming back to the town. That's good work, so.
And it just goes back to what we said, I don't know, in a meeting or so ago, that the reason we got the rating we got from S&P is that there's so many positives here, and that was reflected in the premium. The people, the companies out there were willing to pay more for these bonds.
Were the bonds originally sort of drawn up prior to the increased rating, the improved rating?
The rating was part of the bond sale, so we did get the AA positive prior to going out to sale for the bonds, and that was part of the statement that went out to the potential bidders on the bonds.
Yeah. Well, congratulations anyway. Great job.
Great, thank
That's
you.
good stuff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great questions. Thank you, Dave. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Essentially what it comes down to is there's not a $2 million check out there.
That's correct.
And
Yes.
and that's the part that I'm taking away, because there was some chatter about that there's this surplus of money,
Right.
and appreciate the clarification and the explanation on it.
No problem.
And with regard to Doreen DeFazio, she impresses me every time she comes here. She's so well prepared. She's done her homework, and she's passionate about what she does. So if it means a title change, I'm all for it. I think, I know my colleagues mentioned other folks, and, she's right up there. She's done a lot for the town, and she's got a great reputation, and so I support that. Let's see, and many thanks to Mr. Benoit and Matt Stencil in the Highway Department. And it's interesting to know that the stone that they use came from the Old Stone School.
Yeah.
So that I'm all for that too as well. So
Right.
appreciate it. And yes, close the town hall for the party.
Right.
Good for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. All right. Well, my colleagues did well, as usual, in talking to all the updates. I would, of course, like to extend continued thanks to Jim and Tim for the foresight that they put into all of the financial work that they do every single day, whether it's preparing in advance for a potential spike in healthcare, paving the way for a potential healthcare stabilization fund, which I completely support. I think that's brilliant. Working hard to get the AA+ ratings, dealing with the bond sales, saving the taxpayers' money. I mean, it's in the numbers. The work that you both do and the whole entire financial team every single day for the residents, we can't say thank you enough. So thank you to you both, truly. It's fantastic. As far as Doreen goes, she unquestionably does extraordinary work. She's part of the town. She's a perfect fit. I know residents that have interacted with her, and they talk about her professionalism, her knowledge, and her dedication. To me, that's clear. And as I do say whenever she comes, whenever Doreen's before us, we're saving money. So the amount that she has made for us as a community definitely more than offsets, a little increase to her salary. I wish we could make her full-time, because I can just imagine how much more she could do. But if we can only take 20 hours, I'll be happy with 20 hours. And the title change, completely in support of that.
Terrific.
I would also like to thank Mr. Benoit. I had a chance to go down there at a couple of different points as it was developing, and it's fitting, it's beautiful. As Ray mentioned, the fact that we're preserving a piece of Sutton history too, as one of the key features of the memorial. So thank you to all that were involved. And lastly, I have one comment regarding the $368,000. How about that for a problem?
Yeah.
We're either going to be able to add a little more to the police station, going closer to the original design, or sending it back to the taxpayers. I mean, you can't complain with either, so.
Win-win.
Absolutely. So thank you again, Jim. I appreciate it.
Sure.
All right. Next up, we have announcements, roundtable, and, well, we've already dealt with the correspondence, so. John?
Just a thought. Jim, now that winter is approaching, do you think it would be a good time to have our highway superintendent come in and he could tell us how he's prepared, maybe about, what he's gonna be using, more calcium, more salt,
Yeah.
and what type of equipment he got with hired equipment?
Sure.
I think it would be a good little update before we, have a monstrous snowstorm.
Yeah, the timing's kind of tricky. If I bring him in February, then he's dealt with a number of storms, and he's so maybe January is a good time to have him in here and talk about what we've experienced. Hopefully, there's nothing we've experienced, but I doubt that.
Right, just a suggestion.
Good idea.
I just felt that would be a good thing. And the other thing I would like to bring up is, everyone knows it's Christmas time, and for several years, the town was blessed to have a couple of secret Santas. People would donate a couple $1,000, and through the school department and our town nurse Cheryl, it would go out to a couple of needy families. I was wondering if through the senior center and through Cheryl still, if there was a need, other kids that really isn't gonna have a heck of a lot. And is there something maybe we could start, if we don't start it this year, think about starting some type of a fund for next year? And, to put a smile on someone's face who doesn't have something is, I would reach into my pocket a little bit deeper.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Well said, well said. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those are great suggestions, John. I really just wanted to mention Chain of Lights. We had great weather for Chain of Lights. I've worked at Chain of Lights for a number of years with the Lions Club. This year we were moved over over to where Valancourt's stop is, and it's funny because it's hard to tell what the turnout is when you're sort of stuck in one location all day long. But what I could gather was that we had great turnout, which you might expect with that weather, and the trolley seemed to run well. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, because you
welcome.
sort of handled that, and it looked like another great day. So later in the day, we had the tree lighting ceremony. I think the common looks terrific, and of course, thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Claus, that I think were a big hit. And I think it's worth mentioning that every year the school band comes down and plays on the common, and I have to say that they all dress up, or many of them dress up in Christmas clothes, and it looks like they really have a good time doing it. And I just appreciate having the band there. So wanted to mention that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. Ray?
And I'll echo that. I didn't have a chance to go to Channel Lights because of my travel commitments, but I was able to get to the tree lighting. And it was really nice to see so many young families, new faces, a lot of young kids enjoying Mr. and Mrs. Claus and the band. It was packed. The common was loaded, and I've been there for many years, and it's usually not that busy. But this year, maybe the weather, but it's just so many young families, so many young little faces wanting to see Santa Claus. It was really a fun time. And if I could ask one question, the cell tower, where are we? Is it on? Is it running? The switch on?
The cell tower is, we're working on it. John Arthur had, from Wireless Edge, had some equipment delivered to the town in big pallets that are currently down at the highway facility. So he contacted his guy that is the local guy that's going to take this equipment up to the cell tower. I don't believe it's been picked up as of yet, but that was last week when it was delivered. So within the next few weeks, it should see some progress.
Still progress.
But, the fact is, he delivered equipment, one package to our office, and the second package came down to the highway department on a pallet. So they are moving forward. They did get some additional equipment. Part of it's the fiber that's going to run up the tower to the antenna, the town antenna, which he has donated to the town. And so that's that. The one question I have, and I've yet to see anything, but it's, I just contacted John a couple weeks ago, so I want to kind of give him a week or two, a break, and then I'll contact him again. My understanding is that the power will come from one of the poles. The telephone poles are on the other side of the street. So my guess is, unless they go underground, they will have to set a new pole on the westerly side of the street, and then bring that power underground to the cell tower. So that's probably another step in this process, is a poll hearing. That's just my thought process. But hopefully we see some progress shortly. Continued progress. It's been moving.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Ray. All right, I do have an extensive list tonight because 'tis the season and there's a lot of fun and festive activities going on in town. First off, I would like to thank the Valancourts. Once again, they invited Gerald Dickens down and he performed the Christmas Carol down at Valancourt Folk Art, and this is the second year in a row that I've went, and this year's performance was better than last. Gerald was in rare form, and just the performance is something that I really, really hope that many people in town have a chance to see, because it is extraordinary and it's a great way to kick off the holidays. And then, of course, from that weekend came Chain of Lights, and tremendous amount of thanks to Sam Whittier and all of the coordinators and the vendors and the volunteers and everyone who came and showed up and supported all of the businesses in town. The trolleys were indeed moving, but all I saw coming every which way from my vantage point were people walking around with smiles on their faces and bags full of goodies. So thank you to everyone involved in the process. I think this was probably better than last year, and I'm looking forward to next year's, because I'm sure, we'll continue to grow and be successful. Speaking of collections, John, I participated with the Dudley Gendron in their annual collection right out here at the Four Corners. And I received word from Dave Karasiotis that we raised almost $2,100, which will be used to help out needy families. So while I definitely support the idea of us putting forward a potential fund, rest assured there are a lot of people in town working hard to make sure that every child in our community has that present underneath the Christmas tree. Thanks to St. Mark's for their monthly donation to the Michael Chizzy Food Pantry. Thanks to a young lady by the name of Kyla Boynes, who I guess personally took it upon herself to fundraise over at the school I think she was located during Chain of Lights for the food pantry. Excellent work, Kyla. And I would also like to send a personal shout out to Matt Stencil and the Highway Department, because I can tell you, as trolley coordinator, my biggest concern as the trolleys are coming and going is the little kids in particular, just rushing this way and that. Well, Matt dropped off for me on Friday an overabundance of cones, which I was able to position with some caution tape that I got, so I was able to rope off the entire loop, and I didn't have a single incident. Not a care in the world. It just functioned. So, again, special thanks to Matt, because I ran into him early on Friday, and I wasn't sure what I was going to find Saturday morning, so he definitely made my day that much less stress-free. All right, last but not least is the food pantry list. Obviously, we're getting close to Christmas, so if you could, keep those in town who draw on the food pantry in mind when you do your shopping. I didn't talk to Michelle, but I know that they are in need of pie crusts, hearty soups, canned meats, pudding, instant potatoes, hamburger helper, tuna helper, and hand and dish soaps. All right, that is all I have, gentlemen. Yes, John?
One thing I did forget that I wanted to mention. We're very lucky to have people decorate our common the way they do at Christmas time, because it just fits. It's tasteful and it's nice. But you hear a lot of people say, what's with the blue tree? And the blue tree is remembrance of John R. Henn, one of our school, graduated from Sutton, His mother was the school nurse. He was shot down in Vietnam, and for about 20 years. Wasn't found until we were able to go back in there. And if anyone wants to know about the Blue Tree or about him, there's a wonderful display downstairs in the town hall. And when you go by that, all of us are blessed to look at something like that. And I want to recognize him Christmas and every time because, you know, there's a life that was lost. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. We appreciate that. All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Second.
Well, we'll get a second. All right, all those in favor?
We can go now.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Good night, everyone.
Keep us here any longer than we need.